Pastor Roy Gerhardt from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. How good a promise keeper are you? Promises are part of everyday life. We make promises all the time. Some promises we make, it's not really all that big of a deal. We're kind of carelessly say, I'll do this or that. My kids learned that if I said I was only going to be a couple minutes running into Lowe's or Home Depot, that they needed to add about 30 minutes to an hour to that promise because I would never get out of there in a couple of minutes. But other promises, a whole lot more important than that. And if you fail to keep some promises in your life, well, they're not just inconvenient, they will wreck your life. So promises can be the real glue and the real power that kind of makes life what it is. Some years ago, there was a movement that broke out in America that was called Promise Keepers. It was an incredibly impacting movement aimed at men and aimed at encouraging men to stay focused on the great promise of their life, to be husbands and fathers, to keep their commitments faithfully and true. And it aimed men at God as the source of strength and direction, determination in their lives to be able to keep those promises. Because those promises, to be faithful, to be present, and to be committed for a full lifetime, well, those are huge promises and really require some outside support in order to make it happen. I mean, I can tell you truly in my own life, that not only could I, but I would have broken my marriage vows, acted in unfaithfulness if God were not present in my life. God has been there to set boundaries, to pull me back from the temptation to sin, to keep me on track so that I could be a promise keeper. And I'm so deeply grateful, in fact, eternally grateful to God for his impact in my life to keep me a promise keeper. That comes out of the very character of God. God is himself really a tremendous promise keeper. As we've entered into the Words of Life pursuit here at Galloway, we've been following the work of God through the book of Genesis, and there I have been so impacted by God's promise to Abraham. Even though I was aware of it, I don't think that I ever fully grasped how important it is that God is a promise keeper. He made promises to Abraham that I thought were, well, mostly concerning the Jewish people. I mean, the promise started off with Abraham to say, Abraham, I'm going to give you a homeland. And then God said, I'm going to give you descendants that you can pass this homeland on to. In fact, your descendants are going to grow into a populace that will be a nation and a people, and this will be their home. And I thought that was really kind of the full impact of God's promise to Abraham, that the existence of the nation of Israel today is like this huge answer to that promise. And I mean, when you consider the establishment of the nation of Israel after World War II, it was nothing short of miraculous. And so to see God maintaining that promise is amazing, to say the least. But God's promise included another element. God told Abraham, I'm going to bless the entire world through your descendants. And Matthew's gospel, we've already noted that in the past week, that Matthew picked up on this to be able to draw the connection between Abraham and Jesus. He counted down the generations and said, here it is. This is the descendant. This is God's promise being fulfilled. Whenever you and I begin to recognize God's promises being kept over thousands of years, in fact, not only to people historically in the past, but to people in the present, I mean, we realize God is truly an amazing promise keeper, and what that gives you and I is the confidence to put our trust in God, in his promises, that he promises you and me salvation through Jesus Christ. He promises his Holy Spirit to strengthen us and to renew our lives. God is a promise keeper. You can count on it. Well, may God bless you today, and as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever he takes you.